The wife of 37 years cheated with my best friend, so I ghosted her. Now she's dying, and I still can't forgive her betrayal. My wife of 37 years slept with my best friend, and I ghosted her. Now she's dying, and I still can't forgive her. I've been wrestling with a story I'm not proud of, and thought maybe writing it here might ease the knots in my chest, or, hell, just make sense of it all. I, a 78-year-old male, have spent the last 13 years resenting the woman I was married to for 37 years because she broke a trust I never imagined could be broken. Now she's dying, and I've been forced to look at the man I've become, a man who can't find it in himself to forgive even as death comes knocking. So my wife Elanor and I were married for a solid 37 years when everything changed. We had 4 kids, a bustling family life, and from the outside, we looked like one of those couples who had it all figured out. We had gone through our share of struggles, financial struggles, balancing work and raising 4 kids, losing my father and her mother within a month, seeing each kid through one phase or another, and yet, through it all, we were partners. Almost 13 years ago, it was on the night of our youngest daughter's wedding. Ellie and I were drinking wine on the rooftop of the resort where the wedding took place. It was a beautiful, surreal moment. We both were reminiscing about our lives, our kids' childhood, their milestones, and how far we had come in our life. Being married for 37 years isn't a cakewalk. It was an emotional moment for us. We were in tears, saying a lot of I love yous, thanking each other for all that support, and apologizing for our past behaviors. It was then that she dropped the bombshell. She suddenly went silent and said, I want to tell you something that has been eating me for decades. I thought she was going to talk about the fallout with her mother months before she died or something of that sort, but she was pale, like she was steeling herself. She went on to say, remember that trip with Tom and his family in Florida? I said yes. When the kids were still in middle school and junior school, we went on a family vacation with Tom and his family, wife and kids. She said, the last night in Florida when you and Marie, Tom's wife, went to sleep, he and I still sat on the porch by the lake and drank beer. I don't know what had triggered it, maybe the alcohol or the serenity of the gushing lake at night, or simply the loneliness because you used to be so busy those days. We got distracted. My heart sank and I asked her, what does that mean? She said they were discussing and sharing stuff about our lives, emotional stuff, and one thing led to another. And she and my so-called best friend made their way to the attic and, well, she didn't need to say the details. I got it. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't even respond. I sat there in disbelief. It was just a moment ago I was feeling myself to be the luckiest man in the world. And now everything got shattered in a blink. She caressed my arms and asked if I was fine. Her touch disgusted me, and I involuntarily shrugged her off. She started sobbing again and said, I promise it was just one time, and we're extremely guilty of it. As soon as we realized what we had done, we retracted and pushed back to our rooms and agreed never to speak of it again and never to let it happen again. She had buried this secret in her heart, thinking to take it to the grave. But that night, for whatever reason, maybe guilt, maybe some twisted sense of honesty, she decided to tell me. I sat there quietly, remembering that trip and the journey back home from Florida. The memory was faded and I couldn't remember any odd behavior from any of them. They pulled it off so well. She nudged me for a response, but I didn't say a word. We both sat there in silence. Her presence used to be soothing, but now it was suffocating me. I got up and went back to the room. She silently followed me. I stretched on the bed and she laid beside me, and it killed me from inside to share the bed with her. She was saying something that I barely heard. I was lost in my thoughts. Just one question. How could she? And that too, with my best friend? I had one friend throughout my life, and it was Tom. And then I got to know he wasn't exactly my friend. I felt so stupid. I discussed my personal life problems with him. I wanted to disappear. She wanted to hug me, but I turned the other side and dozed off. The next morning, we were supposed to leave. We both were unusually quiet. The children thought we were fighting over some silly stuff, and they left us alone. They hugged us, and we left for the airport. The return trip is so blurry. I was so engrossed in my thoughts, I don't remember any bit of the transit. We were traveling with our younger son and his family. We lived in the same town. He dropped us home, and it was already evening by then. As soon as we were alone, she started crying, saying my silence was killing her. She held my arm and said, "Please talk to me. Say what you're thinking." I thought our marriage was strong enough to sustain this. We've been through worse, didn't we? All I said was, "Let us rest. I'm feeling dizzy from the travel." Then I went to my study, locked up myself, and slumped on the couch. It was my den. Whenever I needed to cope with something, I used that space to unwind and recharge. I wanted to vanish into thin air. And what options did I have? I remembered my older brother had moved into our ancestral farmhouse. I wasn't in touch with him ever since I got married to Ellie. She and he weren't fond of each other. When I was still dating her, my brother had a disagreement with her over something. It's been so many years I don't remember the exact incident. I think it was when he made a move on Ellie's friend at a party. Since then, we're not in touch. He didn't even attend my wedding. Let's just say they both resented each other. I hesitantly called him and said I wanted to move back to the countryside to our father's farmland. It was not that I was asking him for his permission. I also had my share in that property. I thought he would still be bitter toward me. Surprisingly, he was calm and understanding. He asked, "How come your sophisticated wife wants to give away her city life for the countryside?" Not that he would have stopped Ellie, but no one wants to be around someone they don't like, especially during their retirement phase. I said, "I'm moving there alone." Maybe he understood what was going on. He didn't ask any further questions, and I said I could take the other house across the street. It was lying vacant ever since. Back then, I was running a store. After my retirement, I put up the store for sale. The adjacent store owner bought the lease. It took me a week to sort all that stuff out. Until then, I was mostly put in my study or went out for walks. I avoided Ellie as much as possible. I ate outside or brought takeaways. She would slip a note in my study. "We'll come down to this stronger. We've been through a lot more than this. We can sail through this." With lots of "I love yous" and "I miss yous." Then on Sunday, when Ellie was in the church, I shipped away my stuff, which was mostly books, some clothes, and my piano, to the farm. Then I took my car and drove off, reaching there in 4 days, spending the nights in a hotel. I switched off my number, knowing she would call me as soon as she came back to an empty house. She tried everything to reach me, but there were no means she could have done that. She didn't know where I was. I had changed my number and deleted my social accounts. I went dark and ghosted her completely. To this day, I don't know if I was running away from betrayal or just trying to erase it from my existence by disappearing myself. Eventually, she reached out to the children. They tried to lodge a missing complaint, but the cops ruled out any foul play, saying I voluntarily left. I left everything to her: the house, the retirement money we had saved, the rental yield we were getting from 2 properties I had invested in after wrapping up my business. I didn't want anything but peace. I had a fish supplies business back in the day. Once the children grew up and were free from our responsibilities, I wrapped up the business and invested in some high-yielding rental properties. I wanted to lead a peaceful and quiet life. I went to the store and sold fish, aquariums, and stuff. Life seemed good. Then reality hit me and everything changed overnight. I abandoned the life and family I had built over the years and moved to my homeland, several states and miles away. They had no idea about my whereabouts until my niece, my brother's daughter, visited him. She told my son about it, and that's how everyone got to know. Staying with my brother in my native country was the last thing that crossed their mind because of my difference with him. She then sent me a letter pleading for forgiveness. My daughter even visited me to understand what was going on. I said they should ask their mother about it. I let her tell her version. She told the truth to the kids, thinking they could mediate. Initially, they were upset with their mother. However, seeing her suffer, they melted. And one by one, they reached out, asking why I couldn't just forgive her and why I was holding on so tight to the past. I told them I needed time. They tried several means to reconcile us, inviting me to family get-togethers and their life events. I never showed up. The birthdays, the anniversaries of my children, the birth of my grandkids, their birthdays and milestones, everything I left behind. Then my youngest son flew to me, saying Mom was wrecked without me and that she would desperate for forgiveness. I told him it was something I couldn't just hand over. Not like that. I stayed out of reach, though every now and then curiosity got the better of me, and I'd sneak a glance at a family photo or check on her by trolling through Facebook via a fake account. She hasn't been active lately. I stayed away, never letting her or anyone know that I still watched over them. It was 13 years later, 2 months back, that I heard Ellie was sick, terminal. The doctor said it's a matter of a few months. My son called me, telling me it was time to come back, that she didn't have enough time. I couldn't bring myself to do it. The rage still simmered beneath the surface, the betrayal fresh as ever. I know she wants to see me, wants some kind of closure. I can't stand the thought of being by her bedside, pretending to forgive her for something I can't forget. The image of her and Tom in the attic is still burning in my mind. I can't help but imagine every family barbecue, every Christmas, every birthday, Tom and I standing together, sharing laughs. All of it was a lie, or at least it felt that way to me now. I can't let that go. The kids, of course, are siding with her. They told me I was being unreasonable. I'm too harsh, they said. She's being punished enough, Dad. They don't understand that it isn't about punishment. It's about the fact that I've been lied to for decades, humiliated without even knowing it. Tom was supposed to be my friend, and yet he and my wife had shared a secret I was never supposed to know. How could I just let that go? Yesterday, my daughter video called me and pleaded for one last time that I should go and meet Ellie. She's on her deathbed, and she wants to see me one last time. She's not even in a condition to be taken here. I felt like a time bomb ticking in my chest. They even said if I don't meet her before she's gone, they all would cut ties with me forever. I didn't take offense, as it's coming from a place of pain. I know my children are deeply hurt to see their mother in that condition, and they partly blame me for her deteriorating health. Honestly, deep down, I also know that I'm being unreasonable. If things were fine between us, maybe she would have lived longer. She was fitter and healthier than me. She was and looked younger than me. But her guilt had rotted her to death. I don't know why I'm writing it here. Maybe just to get it off my chest, because I know people would have mixed opinions on this. Only I know what's going on inside me. I don't want her to die. I also don't want to forgive her or let her see my face. Edit. To address some of the comments, yes, we're still married. I didn't divorce her because I didn't want to face her ever again. So technically, she's still my wife. And if I count these 30 years where I ghosted her, we've been married for 50 years. Dang, this was one of our dreams when we were dating, to celebrate our 50th with kids and grandkids. We used to laugh at our stupid wish, but see, it actually came true. We remained married for 50 long years, but sadly, we can't celebrate our marriage any longer. Well, yeah, that's definitely not how you see yourself celebrating 50 years of marriage. It's unfair for your children to partly blame you when she was the one who made all the decisions to cheat on you. Just because she's on her deathbed doesn't mean it's the time to be forgiven. I mean, you can't be forgiving people just because someone's telling you to do it. Just know that whatever decision you make is about what feels true to you, and that's all anyone can ask. She's gone. It's been a month. I was there right beside her bed, saw her take her last breath. If you've read my original post, you'd know I wasn't ready to go. Days after that call with my daughter, I battled myself. The image of Ellie alone, sick and dying, kept haunting me. I'd spent so many years avoiding her, bearing the pain, that I'd become more of a ghost than a man. I couldn't tell what I was anymore. Then one morning, something in me snapped. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe I was finally ready. I booked a ticket home. Walking into her hospital room was like stepping back into a life I had tried to leave behind. She looked so fragile, so different from the woman I'd known. Her face lit up when she saw me, and she started to cry, and in her breaking tone, Wenken whispered, "I'm so sorry. I've spent every day regretting what I did to you." For the first time in 13 years, I cried. I held her fragile hands and cried. Her wrists felt like a pile of bones wrapped in skin. We sat there crying and lamenting. It was a moment of reckoning, the two of us staring down a lifetime of hurt. She kept asking me to forgive her, tears streaming down her face, and I don't know if I had it in me. We cried, we held hands, but I still felt anger, like a poison running through my veins. I wanted to stop her from dying. I also didn't want to forgive her. She pleaded with me to stay with her in her final days, to be by her side as she passed. She said she couldn't leave this world knowing I was still so full of pain. I told her I'd try, and for a while I did. We talked about the kids, about the years we'd spent together. Sometimes I'd catch glimpses of the life we used to have before that night had poisoned it all. She asked me again and again for forgiveness, and I would say, I'm here, aren't I? Let's not talk about it. It was never the forgiveness she wanted. I couldn't give her that, not fully. I tried, but I couldn't lie to her or myself. Then one day, something I hadn't anticipated happened. Tom showed up. I was sitting in the park opposite the care home. He came and sat beside me, and my body went cold. I hadn't seen him since before Ellie's confession. He looked older and tired, like he'd carried the weight of this secret just as long as she had. He asked if we could talk. I didn't want to, but something compelled me to listen. I didn't nod or say anything, just sat there staring at the ground. He started off by saying, I'm sorry, I've wanted to tell you for years. I was too much of a coward. He talked about the guilt, how it had eaten away at him, how he'd felt like a fraud every time we got together. He went on to say, after you left, Ellie told me that she had confessed to you and that you had left her. I couldn't forgive myself for ruining your marriage. I couldn't take the guilt anymore, and I confessed the truth to Maria. She's also got separated, and my children also despised me for years. It was only 2 years back when my grandkid was born, my daughter contacted me, and I went to meet them. Since then, they started making me a part of the family events. It feels terrible to be disgusted by your kids. I can feel for Ellie what she must be going through. Trust me, I regret that moment every second of my life. I never met her after you left. The guilt was so bad, I wish I could go back in the past and undo that stuff. He cried, and dang it, I cried too. There was this outburst of emotions, these brutal, terrible emotions, like the years of anger and bitterness had finally reached their breaking point. At that moment, I realized that he had suffered too. Maybe not like I had. He'd paid his own price. Seeing him broken, apologetic, took something out of me and stripped me down to the bone. It didn't erase the hurt, but it did make me see that they'd both been human, and they'd both been haunted by that one night in a way I hadn't fully understood. When her condition worsened, he came to visit her. No talks, just silent tears from all three of us. The night she passed, I held her hand, feeling both love and betrayal mixed into one twisted knot inside of me. When she breathed her last breath, I felt the last of that anger rise up, the final wave of bitterness before it all settled like dust after a storm. I was left with this hollow, aching sadness, not just for what she'd done, but for what we'd lost, and in a way, for what I'd lost by not letting go sooner. Now she's gone and I'm here, an old man with nothing except memories. The kids still think I was too harsh. Maybe they're right. However, in my bones, I know I did what I had to do. I loved Ellie, but I couldn't look at her the same after she betrayed me. Some wounds cut too deep to heal, and some forgiveness is too much to ask for. Whatever I left to her, she left it back to me. The kids, the house, the properties. I really don't want any of it. Nothing makes sense to me now. What am I going to do with all that stuff? I built it so that we both could enjoy it together, but now there's no point. It's just a matter of years or maybe months before I'm gone too. My heart feels heavy and sad. I'm yet to make terms with the fact that she's gone. Maybe I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't have seen her in that miserable state. It's haunting me. I'm not sure what I want to accomplish by writing about my emotional state here. Maybe I wanted to understand my own choices, or maybe I wanted to see if anyone else could feel the same. Could you forgive someone after so long, or does there come a point where forgiveness is just a lie we tell ourselves to get through the day?